Hi guys, Rob here and welcome to week 16 of my quarantine lockdown here in the Philippines. This must go down as one of the longest quarantine lockdowns in the world, if not the longest. It is getting a bit tiring. So as I do every week, I'm going to look at the coronavirus stats worldwide and also in the Philippines, so you can get an idea of what's happening here. So I'm also going to update the latest news around town in relation to the virus here. So this week I also went down to get my tourist visa extended immigration. There have been some important changes, so I'm going to show that later on in the video. So let's get to the video. So let's look at the virus stats worldwide and then the Philippines, and then we'll delve into those figures. Worldwide cases have passed the 13 million mark. Deaths inching up to 600,000. Recovering nearly 7.7 million. Daily new cases worldwide have steadily been rising, with the death rate by and far pretty steady. Looking at individual countries, USA has always topped the list and it's nearly at 3.5 million cases, over 138,000 deaths. Brazil has nearly 2 million cases now, and India is creeping up to the 1 million mark. With the Philippines, it's jumped to number 33 now. From memory, last week it was at number 38. With this video, I just wanted to compare stats with the Philippines and the USA. It's just for a matter of interest, as obviously the total numbers are completely different. More interesting is the total deaths. In the US, the graph is flattening, while in the Philippines, it's still steadily rising. Keep in mind the death rate in the Philippines is quite low. There has been a spike in the deaths in the Philippines recently, which I'll go into shortly. The graph here shows in the USA, the daily death rate on average has been decreasing, while in the Philippines the numbers have been very low, but there has been a spike just recently, and again I'll look into that shortly. Total cases in the Philippines is just over 57,000, just over 35,000 are active cases. The figures on the graph here haven't been updated, they are a few days out, so the graph shows a decrease at the end. You can see that Cebu City still is the highest number of cases in the Philippines. Looking at the details of the deaths, it's kind of flattened out since the initial spike at the beginning of the pandemic, but overall the number's been quite low. Again, this graph doesn't show the recent spike in deaths. On to that point, the Philippines recorded its highest COVID-19 death toll in a single day. The Department of Health puts this down to a backlog of data, so some of these figures go back to May. Getting proper up-to-date data has been problematic in the Philippines with these coronavirus figures, and particularly with more regional areas. So this also probably means new data will also be 2 months old in the future. The Philippines has one of the longest quarantine lockdowns in the world. An interesting article about the plight of a jeepney driver that hasn't been able to work for 4 months now. During the quarantine lockdown, the poor have struggled the most. There has been talk about opening up the economy. The government has been mulling over this in the last couple of weeks, but in the last couple of days the president has been putting out that he's not in favour of this, not yet anyhow. On the 15th of July, decisions will be made quarantine status of the country. Will they downgrade the quarantine or keep it status quo? Different parts of the Philippines have been on different restrictions due to the number of cases in each area. Cebu City, which has the highest number of cases in the Philippines, has been on the highest restriction. So there is talk about whether they will be downgraded after the 15th. As always, there's people for and against this. Ultimately, the decision is made in Manila. Other parts of Cebu are on lower quarantine restrictions. I do think the majority of people are hoping for a lowering of the quarantine. Most people really want to get back to work and start making money, particularly after 4 months. In Lapu-Lapu, they've put out a coffin to remind people how dangerous the virus can be. With the strain on healthcare, the local government has been providing financial assistance to healthcare workers, as well as they've been building extra facilities for COVID-19 patients. Mactan Airport has opened a lab to run COVID-19 tests for processing passengers, although it's going to cost you. So today I'm going down to the immigration to see if they can extend my tourist visa. I'm going to try and do a 6-month extension this time because I don't want to keep going every 2 months, so we'll see how that goes. So I'm also going to check what happens if your tourist visa expires during the quarantine here, because last time they told me it didn't matter if it was a GCQ or an ECQ, so I'm going to check if that still holds true 2 months later. I had no problems extending my tourist visa for an extra 6 months. It cost me 7,240 peso. I asked about the visa extension if your tourist visa expired. There's been a new update on this since my last visit, and when I asked, they showed me this letter, which is on screen, basically saying that aliens whose tourist visa has expired within the quarantine and wanting the 30-day grace, you had to file it between 1 to 30 June, which is just too late now anyhow. I asked how much late fee was, and they told me that it depends on your passport and how long you've gone over your visa extension. But they hinted at something around 1,000 peso, if that helps with a ballpark figure. Anyhow, you have to take that up with immigration when you can get in there. I have deleted my previous video on this as it's no longer valid. Thank you so much for watching. Keep safe out there, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.